In the first 3 slots of this Mad Lib, you're basically hanging out with the protagonist before the story starts, empathizing with them, so you can build a working relationship with the character who's going to stand in your spotlight. But now we've reached the last spot in the Mad Lib, and here's where things get twisted. Because when you're designing the antagonism, you gotta screw up the protagonist's life. The more personal, the better. Try to customize a challenge for them that targets their specific weaknesses. Find interesting ways to force them out of their comfort zone. Torture them. Threaten to send them to their own personal version of hell. Because when the protagonist is left with no good choices, they're forced to behave honestly. So which new risks are they willing to take? What are they willing to sacrifice? How far are they willing to go in order to get something that they truly want? In short, antagonism prompts the protagonist to become the truest version of themselves. But what exactly should you pick to be the antagonism? Anything. Any part of the story can serve as the antagonism. A character can be an antagonist, that's a common one. If the protagonist has an enemy, or if they have an ally who's just really bad at helping them, good antagonism. A setting can be an antagonist. If the protagonist is in a dangerous location, or maybe they live in an oppressive era where the rules are against them. A theme can be the antagonism. If the protagonist has conflicted feelings about parenthood, or if the protagonist is lacking something that they need in order to feel independent. Theme is antagonism. The audience can be the antagonist. If you've ever seen professional wrestling, you boo the bad guy, right? Well, that's all right. The bad guy doesn't want to perform for you. The bad guy's performing for himself. Screw the audience. Boo! Love the audience as antagonist. Even the protagonist themselves can play the antagonist if they have self-sabotaging behavior. And we'll talk more about that in the lesson about character arcs. So let's talk for a minute about all these different forms of antagonism because they're all pretty different. Characters, settings, themes, protagonists themselves, the audience, but they all work more or less the same way. So let's start with the antagonism coming from another character. When I have an antagonist, another character who is stopping the protagonist from getting what they want, I give that antagonist their own conflict. The antagonist also wants something badly, but they have trouble getting it. And for whatever reason, the antagonist can't achieve their objective without colliding into the protagonist as they try and achieve their objective. This helps me focus on the antagonist as a character and remember that they are their own individual character who we need to flesh out and make interesting and motivate all of their actions. If the antagonist is either the setting or the theme, then on the surface, those are not characters, but really they are. The character is in fact the storyteller who's hiding in the subtext and playing the whole story like a marionette on strings. In a disaster movie, in The Perfect Storm, the biggest waves happen at the worst possible times, right? That's not happenstance. That's the storyteller reverse engineering when the worst possible time for antagonism would be and sending the biggest possible wave at that point. So when I'm designing antagonism that comes from a setting or a theme, I can write a conflict. The storyteller wants to hinder the protagonist at this point because of these reasons, but here's how the protagonist could cope with the situation I'm putting them in. By thinking of myself as a character in that circumstance, and I'm setting up the play set for them to fail, that keeps me focused on antagonizing the protagonist at the worst possible moments, the times when we really need antagonism. I'm not just throwing every challenge I can think of at them, I'm picking my punches. And when the protagonist is their own antagonism, when they have an internal conflict, I'm still using the same Mad Lib. Macbeth wants to be king, but he's got to murder his friends and coworkers in order to do it. This is what I like so much about Frank Daniel's prompt. It's very elastic. You can start any story in the world with this one sentence. Someone wants something badly, but they have trouble getting it. So that's how I approach this Mad Lib. Now it's your turn. If you scroll down, you'll see a collection of creative challenges that are designed to help you figure out the conflicts of your own stories. I'm excited to read what you write.